Right there. Don't you move back too far.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right. Oh, well, we can just start. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here with Jeffery Howard at the Walking Horse Report to talk over different things that are taking place now in the walking horse industry.
Great.
I seen where an alliance was formed, and I guess most people just interested in how that's going to work.
Yeah. So first and foremost, it's actually not formed. So the concept of an alliance was presented to the breeders, the celebration, and the trainers on Monday, and then also to WOA. So the concept, so there's not any particulars yet of exactly how it would be governed, the bylaws, none of that is developed. But the thought was, Jerry, that if we pulled everyone under one umbrella with regards to inspection standards, judging standards, and rule book standards, that it would be beneficial to the breed and the challenges that we face. Very similar to how other breeds are governed, and we felt like the collective groups felt like an alliance like that would be the best path forward for industry self-enforcement. So I think it's important that it got to that it's already done. It's not done. It was a concept. What everyone was asked to vote on Monday from those groups was, do you think an alliance, a one inspection standard, one judging, whatever you want to call it, is a good idea for the industry? And if you do, then let's move forward and try to form it. If you do not, then let's just stop it right here, and there's no reason to even move forward, because if the major associations are not for it, then why would we go to the smaller associations or state, regional HIOs and that? So another thing that's important, because I think there's the perception out there, maybe the reality out there, that a lot of people are against it. I don't know that they know what they're against, because nothing has been formed.
Right.
But it's important to note that of the Breeders' Executive Committee, the Trainers Board, and the Celebration Board, there wasn't a single dissenting vote. So it was a unanimous vote of all of the Trainers Board, of the Breeders' Executive Committee, and the Celebration, that this is a good concept and we should explore moving forward. So I think maybe some misinformation, maybe some people who felt threatened by an alliance immediately went to drawing these conclusions, things of that nature, which I think were hurtful to it. However, everybody's opinion matters, right? And I think there were some legitimate concerns that, again, we're not to the stage of it to answer, but like cost of inspection, is this going to make it higher? Is it going to be, honestly, Jerry, I think the thought was that it would actually make it lower, or that it would stay very similar. So if you were paying, there would have to have been tiers of shows, right? So if you were used to paying $6 or $8, those types of shows would have stayed right around that same. The thought was, if you consolidate funding, this was another benefit to it. If you consolidate funding, you can bring down the individual cost and still raise the collective amount of money, because you're not splitting it up multiple ways. So definitely the acknowledgement to smaller shows outside of Middle Tennessee, all pleasure shows, fun day shows, anything that had to be regulated by the Horse Protection Act definitely would have been addressed, could be addressed, will be addressed, because what we don't want to see is, I think most of us all agree, the backbone of this industry, at least historically, has been the one-night horse show, the smaller horse show, the AOT, the guy that shows up with just one horse. That it is an expensive sport, but you got to make sure you pay attention to that person, to that area, to that, and make sure. So a lot has been made of, well, if you show at another show, you can't show here, or you can't do this. actually, the alliance won't form if everyone's not in. Everyone is not 100%, but over 90%. So you wouldn't have to worry about that. I've talked to many of the trainers in outer areas, owners as well, like, oh my God, I have to show at our local shows. Well, sure you do. Absolutely you do. We need as many horse shows as we can get. You and I both know this. Horse shows are on the way down, not on the way up.
Big time.
And so we need to make it easier for show management, easier for people. So we felt like one standard, lower cost, and one rule book would make it easier to put on a horse show. So if you went into this coming year and your horse show management had to choose, do I go with this or do I go with that? That would mean the alliance didn't form. The alliance would have been everybody joined in and then everybody uses it. So what would those rules have been for? Would have been to keep everyone in, to not let something else form, to not let something, break off from that. So people that are worried about, oh my God, if you have options of who to use as an HIO, then you can go wherever you want to go and you'll be able to. That will mean this didn't get accepted by the greater industry, right? And so again, it has to go in steps. And so the concept first, do we all think this is a good idea? Jerry, you didn't ask me. What do I personally believe? I do think it's a positive. I think bringing costs down, unifying behind a one set of rules, one set of judging. If you're a horse show in East Tennessee or Shelbyville or the Celebration, it'd be great. You could all pick from the same group of judges, right? When you have judges training, it would be for every judge in the industry, not just this HIO or this HIO or this one. So it's kind of a collective effort to pull everything together. But again, if that's not what the mass industry wants, then it won't happen. And that's flat shot performance. That's everything. One of the things that I was learned that I didn't realize, I guess, on the front end is it's a big deal to the flat shot industry. There's a lot of different rules out there, right? So an ability to kind of collectively come under one would be great. It might not be possible, but it not being possible doesn't mean that it's not a good idea. It may not be feasible. It may not be something that can happen. But anyway, so I think that's maybe some misinformation or...
Well, have you seen the flyer that was put out that listed the penalties for not... And I mean, that played a big part of it because, there's some pretty straightforward points in there that if you do this, you can't, show that you won't be allowed to show at the Celebration. Then it said the breeders would not recognize the win-ins and go towards iPads. The trainers, you take your license away. I think that more or less, because that's what I got calls on.
Yeah.
And then one of the major things said they addressed everything, but they're not addressing one of the major problems, which is our judging. Yep. And most of my conversations circle around and come right back to judging.
Yeah. So two things there. One is that was one page of a 14-page, right? So what they left out was if the alliance forms and everyone is in it, to get out of it, those were the penalties. Okay. So again, go back to what I said. If a horse show manager is getting to choose or has to think about and choose an HIO in 26, that will have meant that the alliance didn't form and none of those penalties apply.
Right.
So they only apply if everybody got in. So again, when I say misinformation or misguided or people used information for their benefit, they didn't tell the whole story, right? So those penalties, that page, and that was intentional, that only one of the pages would go of a whole document would be put out. It furthered the point people were saying out there to try to undo it, but there was nothing to undo. It was just a concept at that point in time. And with regards to judging, so a lot of conversations in this industry center around judging. So is it best to divide up the judging and have different groups? Depending on what group you're in, there's maybe a different standard, a different training, or would it be best to have all the judges into one pool, trained the same way with the same standards and held accountable? I think most people would say option 2 there. Well, that's what the alliance, if formed, would have done. So, sure, I agree with you. I think people talk about funding. It would help that. Jerry, I mean, I think what some people maybe forget is 2025 we had a pretty good year in court and in rulemaking. So if you think about this point in time last year, in February 1st, no pads and action devices was going into effect. We filed a lawsuit, we won. Since that win, we filed another lawsuit about the current enforcement. So due process, SCAR rule, we have a preliminary injunction in place. We're winning on that. The Wright case in Tennessee, post-show inflammation, SCAR rule, due process. Neither of those cases are done. We have a preliminary injunction in one, but we got to finish those.
Right.
That's going to cost money. Our attorneys, albeit I think doing a great job, they're not inexpensive, right? And so, hey, the PAST Act is still out there.
Right.
And in those lawsuits, in that rulemaking lawsuit that we won with regards to the pad and action device in that rulemaking, we did lose one thing. And we lost that the HIOs stay in business. So without additional regulatory action, we've already lost legally. The USDA can take away all HIOs and they will inspect the horses. So internally...
Do you think that's what they want? That they want just one HIO or they want to do the inspections themselves?
Well, what they want, that's hard because they change administrations and
they
what they want.
A lot too.
Change. So the government isn't going to mandate one HIO. I do think the government, well, clearly they want one system because the rulemaking that they put out and they won on and they went in court and defended is all inspections to be done by them. So there is no question what the government, or at least the group that wrote that rule, wanted. They wanted one, and it was them, not the industry.
HPIs all the way.
That's HPIs all the way that report to them. There is no industry self-enforcement. Obviously, we're extremely opposed to that, albeit we lost.
Well, you should be, because in there to get certified, Jeffrey, they don't even have to touch a horse. Matter of fact, they don't have to go to a barn. They do it online. I know 2 that have done it and are HPIs. They can't even get a list of who else is an HPI.
Right. So we might not be able to unite behind an alliance, but somehow we better unite behind
something.
Not having that. However, again, and we're working with the government. We're expressing our opinions. I think this is probably a very fair group that we're dealing with. But unless they're going to take additional. There's a new rulemaking coming, right?
Right.
I mean, they have to address that, right?
Right.
We'll see how they address it. We'll see what they put in place, and then we'll react to it. But instead of centering all of our attention around division within the business, let's maybe take the issues we can unite behind, which we've done a really nice job of. I probably thought the industry was as united as it had been in a long time because we're working really good together. The breeders, the trainers, the celebration have been meeting every week with regards to these lawsuits, with regards to the rulemaking, with regards to what is best. And, it was all going well, and I think it can continue to go well. And without an alliance, is that going to harm these efforts? I think that's hard to know. I think the thought of it was to enhance our efforts. We're still going to oppose in these same. We're still going to keep fighting the lawsuits. Now we still have to figure out how to fund it. So one of the major funding mechanisms for the lawsuit was the horse cards and exhibitor cards. Well, an HIO that was participating in that has decided not to participate in that anymore. I don't know if people think those lawsuits are over and we don't have further to go, or that there's not going to be additional lawsuits. I can't answer that. But somehow we have to figure out, and you didn't ask my personal opinion. I will say this. I think to rely on the wealthy owners to donate money is not a good funding model. I think everyone should participate in some way.
Well, I do too. I believe wholeheartedly in that.
And it's got to be a smaller amount. It can't be, but I mean, Jerry, if we're all funding the same thing, if we all agree that we don't want the HIOs gone, if we all agree we want to keep the patent action device, if we all agree, then everyone should be willing to put something, I'm not saying how much, something behind the efforts to fight those things.
Well, and I'm getting back, I'm circling right back to the judging. A lot of people feel, and the reason I'm saying this is we have rules. And we have rules for flat shot, and we have rules for performance. And we have judges out there, and I don't know if you saw it or not, but Jessica Liebeck, Mask, she did a video talking about judging and how it had nothing to do with opinion. Mm-hmm. It had to do with enforcing the definition of the walking horse. There's an animated video of showing what a walking horse is supposed to do, the walking and everything. We've come up with classes, but those classes seem to overlap. People getting in one class that they shouldn't be in there, and the judge tying the horses. If I had a conversation with a guy coming in here to do an interview, and he said if he's in a show pleasure class and there's a horse in there stepping up with a rail, he ain't tying him, because that's not what he's not supposed to be in there. Then he went to a flat shot class. If that horse comes in there banging his head, I ain't tying him. I think judging is one of the things that drives people away more than inspections. And I know we've had, through the years, we've had everything under the sun. Kerry Benedict did a fantastic article on the mid-range horse. Mm-hmm. Me personally, I think we have pushed, if we haven't lost the mid-range horse, we pushed that mid-range horse over to the side. And when Doyle Meadows was the CEO of the celebration, I don't know if you came or not, but they had the DQP training over at Motlow.
The judges training, yes,
right.
Yeah.
The first thing he said when he walked on stage, the very first thing was call before you haul, and where did it come from? First thing he wanted to know about. Well, and here's where I'm going on this. People go out here looking for that great horse, all right? And there's a lot of great ones out here. Now, how great is up to whoever's judging. So if you go pay $150,000, $200,000, $300,000 for a horse, guess what? You still got to call before you haul to ensure he doesn't get beat. So, like I told a guy, why not buy the mid-range horse and do that and do away with capital outlay? And I think people, when they see the judging and they watch it and they realize what happened, and like this, Jerry Williams asked the judge, how could you tie that horse? He hopped the whole show. The judge says, well, I know he did, but he looked good every now and then. I had another one say, well, that woman rode her horse harder. It has nothing to do with judging. And I think that's what people are upset with, and the reason they're leaving are not wanting to show. And it bothers me.
100%. So there's a lot to unpack there. I think, one, let's talk about that mid-range horse. Yeah, we need more horse shows. One of the things that's happened to the mid-range horse is the mid-range horse show's gone away. Mm-hmm. It's major weekends, it's major things. Everything's centered in Shelbyville or Middle Tennessee, and so man, it gets harder, right? So I think that's number one, and definitely something that needs to be corrected. So judges, nothing's going to get better without training and accountability. Okay?
Accountability.
All right. So I can only speak for the show HIO, right? I can't speak for everyone else. But made changes in our training last year. Going to make additional training changes this year. 2 of which there's going to be live horses in the training instead of looking at a book or
Right.
Is hey, you got to look at these horses. You got to talk about some of the issues that you're talking about. You got to talk about the standards that are out there. I agree. Get less opinion and more based upon facts, rules, and standards, right?
What the horse is.
So again, that's important. Accountability, right? So accountability. So if you think about this, Jerry, and I guess this is the nature of the beast everywhere. So you talk about how many people are upset with the judging. You talk about how it's one of our major problems. So this past year, on the show website, on the website that has ours, that has results or whatever, there was a form, an electronic form that you could evaluate the judge, good or bad, right? And so anyone could go on there, tell the rule they broke, tell the standard that they broke, all of these things. The guy who called you. So I think there were less than 5 filled out all year, and so that doesn't mean that judging's good. No. But I would say this, that as the interested parties out there, as mid-range, the small guy, the big guy, doesn't matter, the guy that bought the 300, until they're willing to, and this is a portion of it, remember I said training and accountability, so I'm not trying to shift responsibility here, but help hold the judges accountable by filling out an anonymous form. Okay, you have to sign it, but it doesn't go to the judge who did it, right? So everybody's going to say, I mean, at some point in time, you got to trust something. Okay,
you got to trust something.
You got to trust something.
But a lot of people are afraid of that, though.
100%. Oh, if I complain, then they're not going to tie me. But Jerry, I also talk to a lot of people about the judging, and the same owner talking about the same judge. When they lose, he's a crook.
When they win.
And when he wins, he knows what he's doing.
I've got a situation. I got a suggestion on that. And believe me, I know judges are under a lot of peer pressure. I mean, if you do business in this industry, and I do a lot of business with you, I don't want to make you mad. But my suggestion is make every judge wear glasses. If they wear, that's video from here, that's parental vision.
Yep.
So not only does it back up the judge when he's right, but it also gives him an out when he knows that that horse stopped, or that horse spun chains, or that horse was hitching. I couldn't tie you, buddy, because the proof is there.
So just say if we had an alliance that had all the judging underneath it, and that is a good idea, with the vote of one group board that says that's a good idea, every judge, flat, performance, small show, big show, would have to wear those glasses.
Yep.
But right now,
it ain't.
It's not going to happen because it's so divided, right?
Well, if one did, maybe the others would say, hey.
Maybe they would. Again, I think
we're just bouncing stuff off the wall here.
Sure. Again, I think it's an important thing. Obviously, the deserved winner being tied first. By the way, second, third, fourth, and fifth as
are
well.
Just as important.
It is paramount to the success of the industry. No question about it. Inspection's another thing. Paramount. Welfare of the horse is paramount to the success of our show horse, right? Rule book, I mean, it would be nice to have one, but if certain shows, and I'm pretty sure this was the idea, or at least in the concept, is if you wanted to have rules that were not HPA or judging related, you could have those rules on your class sheet, right? If you wanted to define novice this way, and if Woe wanted to have no bands and this show wanted to allow bands, that would have been allowed, right? It wasn't saying one rule book, one set of rules, and every show you can't vary at all from it. It would have had areas where the rule books, TWEBA's already done this, they took all the rule books and highlighted where they're different, right? So there would have been an acknowledgement of, hey, there's differences here, so allow horse shows to pick between, things like that. So it wasn't going to be so limiting that it would exclude a group, right? Because no matter what you think of any of the HOs, they're all important. Oh. And their exhibitors are important. And so, from the smallest of our shows to the largest of our shows, and people say this, Jerry, that I'd love to know that. I know the criticism. I'd love to know the answer. But they met in Shelbyville. Well, it was the Walking Horse Trainers Association. So it is the group of over 300 members that elected those 14 people to represent them. TWEBA's executive committee, elected by a membership of over 6,000 people. I don't know where you could have started at to be more inclusive. Again, it was going to expand from there. You had to get the major associations on board before you could go to more regional or others. And then again, like I said, we went to a membership-driven organization, same day, right? So those four groups, they represent a lot of history in this business. They're several are membership-driven. Man, that was at least a logical place to start. So if that's not the answer, what is the answer when you want to try to bring the industry together to fix some of the things that you're asking about, right? That isn't the only groups you go to, but where should that group have started, right? I mean, those are the largest organizations in the business. And that doesn't mean they're more important. That means that was the starting point to get, if you're trying to say, is the concept holistically one we should press forward on? I don't know how many members WOA has, I'm sorry, but...
Well, why don't you just call a meeting with all of them, all the HOs, all the different groups, all of them come into one place and sit down and have a discussion. It might get kind of rowdy.
If all of the pages of that document would have been released, okay, that was the next step. Create more, so that before you go to tell everybody, you needed to know how was it going to be governed, who was on the board, and then go get all the HIOs, go get regional, state associations, all of those, and say, hey, here it is. And then the boards of the groups that are on it, with listening to the input from members, HIOs, everyone in the industry, then they would have voted or would vote to whether or not to form the alliance and put in place the rules of it, whatever those rules are, right? Or standards for staying in or whatever. So, a lot of people got the cart before the horse. They didn't listen to the whole story. And Jerry, this is something that I think is interesting. As you can imagine, my phone's been pretty active. Gotten to talk to a lot of people who had a very negative viewpoint on this. Not one, not a single one, after understanding everything, thinks it's a bad idea to unite under one. That doesn't mean they agree with everything about it, because they don't know everything about it, right? But everyone thought, one enforcement standard, one set of judges, one rule book. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Like, that's probably beneficial for us. And as I told you, in that meeting, there wasn't a single vote against it. So that doesn't mean it's good. that meant the concept was one that those associations in there, and then in the meeting with WOA, that was just a small representation of WOA. Okay, there was 4 people, I think. They didn't commit to anything. They did agree that conceptually uniting under one would be a smart path forward. In fact, some of the people have been part of previous efforts to do this, and so since that time, WOA has decided not to be a part of it. I talked to representatives from there. I understand some of their concerns. I think it's a whole lot of misinformation again, a lot of posturing that maybe has fed the rumor mill, and that's been harmful. But again, if it's not what people want to do, let's don't do it, man. We're going to keep fighting for the horse.
I'm a firm believer, whatever is good for the horse, I wish everybody would look at it one way. If it's good for the horse, it would be good for the industry. And if you started following all the rules and regulations and really did an honest and 100% at it for a while, I think everybody would start realizing that, hey, we've got a great horse. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
We've got things coming up like the Academy's coming back on the 31st. I think that's fantastic. But we need to build our industry, and I know in my field, I'm media, out on videos and all. You know the average age of the people that watch What a Horse is over 50. I mean, there's a percentage of younger people, but it's over 50. Now, what does that tell you? We need the one from 50 and below.
That's right.
People getting in. And for them to get in, they have got to see something that really attracts them. It's like I was told yesterday, you put them on a good horse, you've set the hook, but then you've got to produce. They've got to get out here and know that, hey, I've got a chance when I go here that I could really do good. And to me, that's everybody working together for the same goal. So that being said, how do you see 2026 filtering out the rest of the year?
I think we'll operate under that preliminary injunction with a final decision in that case coming soon. There's potential to settle that lawsuit and save money and time. Although certain elements of it we probably have to fight to the end on. Fight might not be the right word. See it through to the end. I think there'll be, we hope, a resolution in the right case. We believe there'll be a new rulemaking in 26. I don't think there's any, whatever is included in that would go through the process like all the, we're starting to get good at rulemaking, right? And knowing that process. So that's probably something that would go into effect in 2027. So I think we look extremely strong. We got to figure out the HIO thing, not the alliance thing. We have to figure out the HIO thing. Are HIOs going to be allowed or not be allowed? Because again, currently with no additional action, right, they're not allowed. So I would assume there'll be a lot coming on that in 2026. I know there'll be a lot coming on that in 2026. Probably whether they are allowed or not allowed, because I'd assume the people that don't like us and don't think we should be in self-enforcement think there's a rule final right now and a lawsuit and a judgment that says get rid of them. So if they're not gotten rid of, I'd say they'll want to see their day in court against us. So here's another thing, and I say this all the time, Jerry, there's going to be a lot of noise about congressional action. Something for everybody to understand. We won in court that the USDA through rulemaking cannot ban activities, substances, or equipment that does not harm the horse. Okay? Great win for us. Congressional action, a passed act. I told you we're very aware of another group of major equine associations and breeds wanting to introduce legislation, have the first draft of it already, that would ban our action device and take them out of the Horse Protection Act. Have it only apply to us. So we're now going to probably fight on two fronts in Congress against two bills. One definitely more harmful than the other, but both of them very harmful. So there'll be a lot of noise around that. And, it is damaging to us no matter what people want to believe when major vet associations, equine associations, and other breeds are proponents of changing. That is tough. I mean, again, we've been successful in fighting against it in the past. I do think the facts are on our side, which helps us tremendously. I think science is on our side. And buddy, trust me, we're going to keep alliance, no alliance, 10 HIOs, 1 HIO, no HIOs. We're going to keep fighting, until we can't fight anymore. So I think if people watching or people you talk to is, remember, this asked for input from everybody. A lot of input's been received. Ultimately, don't get distracted by what you don't like. Let's all unite behind what we agree upon. You and I have talked about a lot today. We agree that we want to continue on those lawsuits. We agree that we want to save our performance horse. We agree we want to improve judging. There's a lot that everybody agrees on. Man, spend equal. That's right. But take equal energy online, on social media, in your associations to talk about what we agree on as much as we talk about what we disagree on. And both are important. I firmly believe you and I hadn't always seen eye to eye, man. You're still my friend. Okay, because people disagree does not mean that the guy that doesn't have your opinion is a sorry, no good. No, it means he has a different opinion. And I'm very willing to listen to opposite viewpoints. I've done a lot of that in the last couple of days. And I hope they're willing to listen to, thank you for coming today, and you being willing to listen in your audience or whatever of what actually did happen, what actually is being proposed. It's not formed, it's not in place, and it's not inevitable that's going to go in place. That's important, and so you get a chance to hear those things. I think Jerry, I mean, I take your calls if you call and ask me. I try to take as many as I can. I met or talked with the president of the East Tennessee Trainers Association, Keith Alshire, and I said, hey man, everybody that you have, man, here's my cell phone number, send it to them, man. If they have any questions, man, just tell them to give me a call, right? Because again, the only way all of us are going to make good decisions is to have good facts.
Well, I need you to do something. I need the number, and I'm going to use this word loosely.
Okay.
Of the idiot that thinks that if I wear these glasses, they're going to hurt me, but they're not going to hurt you. Now, for them to say that our action device hurts our horse, but other industries, their equipment does not hurt theirs. And I mean, I could go from bungee cords all the way around because I've heard it all. Well, it's different with us. Well, the difference is that you're that breed and we're this breed. That's the only difference. You're still a horse.
Jerry, I wish you could hear me in those meetings and on those calls and with those people make the exact argument that you're making there. It is extremely frustrating. It's extremely frustrating, and I think one of the things that people take advantage of against us is that if it's walking horses, it's bad.
That's it.
And man, we need to change that. And man, every little thing we do, from clinics to videos that you do to Jessica's stuff, Carrie Bennett's stuff, I think in the last couple of years we've had members of the Ag Committee out to Callaway's barn. We brought a group from Germany out to Jerry Williams. Yeah. We've had the state ag associations all came out this past year. Every little thing we do like that is in an effort to change that. It is. I say I get a tremendous amount of people usually around the celebration, right? They say, can we come? Can we come? Can we come? Can we see it? Can we do it? You know, and I tell this to everybody, and I would tell this to every trainer. Absolutely tell them to come. I don't know exactly what they'll think when they leave, but I promise you it'll be better than what they thought coming down.
That's it.
Because when you don't know and all you do is listen to our opponents out there who are well organized and well funded. We don't like them, but they are well organized and they're well funded, right? And so, and if you think about this, one of the things that worries me a little bit is people trying to put us out of business and change us are well organized and well funded. The walking horse industry is not well organized. We're very fragmented, and we're not well funded. And look at how good we've been doing. If we were to get well organized and better funded, oh man, the sky's the limit. You know, on a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, because you would have the money and the organization
to do.
I don't mean one organization. I'm saying the organization of the industry parties to say, hey, we're going to make this change to judging. It would apply across the board, right? You know, I mean, things like that. You know, so
you'd be surprised how many times when people see our horse up close. That wasn't what I was told.
Oh, but, hey, but trust me, that's what I'm saying is everybody. That doesn't. I want to be clear, because a lot of those people know who they are that came and sat with me or met with me or with us at the show. I'm not saying they liked everything. I'm saying 100%, 100% of them, it was a lot better than what they had been told or what they thought. I mean, but that isn't hard, because most people think they're laying on the ground in agonizing pain and bleeding. I'm like, what are you talking about?
That's what they've been told.
It's why we take them to barns. It's why we take them to meet the trainers and see the makeup of the business. Show them horse shows. It's not just the celebration either. We've met them at smaller shows. Our attorneys, when we wanted them to understand, they came to the Columbia Spring Jubilee, right? Just to see inspection and to see how it was. And again, albeit fighting on our side, right? They're our attorneys. It really helped them, and it changed their viewpoint, not their opinion, but their viewpoint when they were like, that's what you're talking about. That's what the government's doing, or that's what inspection is. So, man, it's an education.
It is.
It's an education for a lot of people, and we really need to, you know, that's what I say is spend less time on what we don't like and more time on what we really need to be focused. Again, I'm not minimizing that there's disagreement out there, but we'll never get full agreement. There'll never be everybody's on board.
You can't make everybody happy.
You can't make everybody happy. But I will say this: it's very important, very, very important, Jerry, is that the supermajority, the desire of the supermajority, should be the desire of the industry groups to advance those objectives. And no matter what people think, me saying this isn't going to change some of them. I feel really good at the leadership of the major associations. That is their goal. It is to unite behind the horse, the welfare, the judging, and to advance it forward. And you know, there's been times, you've been in this a pretty long time, right? There's been times when even those groups didn't get along.
Oh yeah.
And so I focus, and I still think this, even though there's been a lot of pushback to this week, and again, I credit a lot of that to some maybe poor presentation by us that were thinking it was a good idea, all the way to intentional misinformation to try to undermine it. But you know, we're still trying to move in the right direction, right? And we'll continue to, no matter how that turns out or doesn't turn out. And so
it's all about the horse.
It's all about the horse. You said this, right? So you said if we would do what's in the best interest of the horse,
that's right,
that everything will take care of itself. I'm going to leave you. I would ask you this: do you think one set of judging standards, one set of inspection standards, and one rule book are best for the horse?
I believe it would be, as long as everybody agreed to it and it was laid out so everybody could look at it and see exactly what it was. Because I'm always open for suggestions. Believe me, I get them. and on different things I ought to show and not show. Well, I'm like this. People, if somebody tells me something and I've got a question about it, I'm going to the source. I'm going to find out if that's the way it was. And I've had people talk, they say, well, you don't need to put anything negative out there. If there's a problem, the only way you can ever address it is to put it out there. And that's why I brought up judging. I brought up not being in the correct classes and things. These are problems that if everybody was on the same table and it was done right, we wouldn't have no mid-range horse. I honestly believe that with all my heart, because we've got some great animals. I've never seen a bad one.
Right.
I've seen some that wasn't as good as another one, and I've seen some that needed a little bit more training and a little bit more work. But a walking horse, you can't tell me one thing they can't do.
Right.
And that's it. That's why the academy is so important.
It's great. It's a great. I'm glad to see that coming back. So
appreciate you taking your time explaining everything.
thanks, man.
And
I appreciate
we'll
you.
move forward.
You got it. Thank you very much.
Don't move. I got to check and make sure that everything was lined up right.
Yes, sir.
That's going to be perfect. Turn it off.